It's been almost a year since 2018's God of War reboot took our beloved Kratos on a new journey of growth and self-discovery. In the beginning, we see how our once great Spartan warrior has transitioned into living in a new land and how he has started anew there, with a wife and a child living a humbled life in the Norse woods. Despite this fresh start, it's clear that Kratos still holds back his full effort from his relationship with his son Atreus in fear that the boy will not be able to handle the truth of Kratos' past. Over the course of the game, we gradually see a shift in the dynamic between Kratos and Atreus as they bond, learn, grow, and come closer over a common goal of paying their final respects to their wife and mother respectively. We see Kratos come clean about his past as he urges Atreus to become better than he was, and by the end of the game, the two become closer than ever due to Kratos being honest with his son and growing alongside of him. However, this inspiring tale of familial growth is not possible if not for this one moment in God of War 3.
You can see the light. It is changing you. It is time to lay your fears to rest. The light reveals the truth. The power of forgiveness comes from within. To be forgiven, you must find the power to forgive yourself.
The concept of forgiveness is a powerful psychological force, and so today, in this episode of Psychology of Gaming, the series where we look at how psychological principles are worked into games and how games can affect us psychologically, we take a look at Kratos' path to forgiveness in the original God of War trilogy. Oftentimes in our life, we make choices that lead us to feel a lot of guilt, regret, and remorse later on. Simultaneously, people will commit acts against us that will leave us feeling bitter, angry, or depressed. In both of these situations, we must find the path to forgiving ourselves or others, but that path isn't easy or quick. Instead, it will be filled with many trials and tribulations that will test your fortitude and your growth. For Kratos, his journey of forgiveness revolves around finding the strength to forgive himself for the atrocities he has committed throughout his life. One act in particular haunts him daily. In 2005, Santa Monica Studios introduced us to the God of War universe and told us the story of a man paradoxically seeking revenge and forgiveness at the same time. Kratos was once a mighty Spartan warrior who led vicious crusades against others in the hopes of making Sparta the mightiest city-state in all of Greece. In one battle with the barbarians, Kratos came so close to losing his life, but he called upon the God of War, Ares himself, to save him. Kratos accepted and went on to defeat the barbarian king and served under his new lord, Ares, as he went from village to village, wiping out those who stood against the God of War. Ares groomed Kratos into being the ultimate warrior, and as his final test, Ares sought to break Kratos' bond with his wife Lysandra and daughter Calliope. He sent the mighty Spartan warrior to a village telling him to wipe out everyone there, but inside the temple to Athena, Kratos committed the act that would haunt him for the rest of his days. Blinded by rage and power, Kratos struck down his own wife and daughter, killing them. Their bodies were turned to ash, and the village oracle imprinted them onto Kratos' skin, making him very pale and giving him the nickname, the Ghost of Sparta. Kratos is forced to be reminded of this awful moment by carrying the consequences on his own skin, and this would torture him for years and would begin his path to forgiveness. You see, in order for us as humans to travel down the path of forgiveness and learn its strength, we first must experience an event that brings us to our lowest point, something that sinks us to rock bottom and can feel almost insurmountable. At this low point for us and for Kratos, we are usually left with feelings of extreme sadness or extreme anger. The path of sadness leaves a person hollow, consumed by what they've done or what was done to them. They become a shell of their former selves and display symptoms like guilt, apathy, and torpor. The path of anger, on the other hand, is much more passionate, but sends people down the path of revenge, which psychology tells us will not usually alleviate all the pain and suffering that you've endured. Usually, a person will demonstrate both sadness and anger in these kind of low situations, but they naturally gravitate towards one more than the other. Both of these paths are self-destructive, but they're kind of a necessary evil, as true forgiveness for a devastating act takes time. You cannot just immediately let go of all of those negative feelings caused by doing something horrible or having something horrible done to you. Kratos, of course, chooses the path of anger and revenge, and at the beginning of God of War, it seems that all is coming together for him to alleviate himself of his past. Another Olympian, Athena, promises Kratos that the gods will forgive him of his past doings if he is able to kill the rogue god of war, Ares himself. Kratos goes on a mission of revenge, tearing apart everything in his path with an unparalleled ferociousness. He conquers Pandora's temple by besting beasts and solving tough puzzles along the way until he reaches Pandora's box, which Athena has promised him contains the power that he will need to kill Ares. Returning to Athens, we aid Kratos in destroying Ares, only to learn that the gods are unwilling to take away the memories that haunt Kratos, which shifts Kratos' anger towards all of Olympus. Throughout the game, it's evident that Kratos believes that he will feel some sort of weight lifted off of his shoulders by killing Ares, but in the end, it doesn't bring him any real relief. He even attempts to take his own life, stating that there is no hope left for him. He casts himself over the highest cliff in all of Greece, but is saved by Athena, who makes him the new god of war. But Kratos' suffering has not stopped, and his first revenge conquest doesn't bring him the outcome he truly desired. Kratos continues to allow himself to be metaphorically chained to the event of killing his family. And we often experience something similar when we as humans are on the path to finding forgiveness. Guilt is a feeling that isn't easily absolved, and we tend to hold on to it, which keeps us linked to the event that is bringing us so much pain and suffering. We initially tend to look for forgiveness in the wrong places and for the wrong reasons. For example, Kratos looks to the gods for forgiveness and reasons that killing Ares will allow him to bring peace back to his mind. However, the psychological power of forgiveness does not come from an external force, whether it be a friend telling you that it's okay that you wronged them, or egging the school bully's car to get revenge, or the justice system punishing someone who has brought you harm. The revenge path especially keeps you locked into the negative mindset that takes more and more physical and mental tolls on you the longer you hold on to it. Forgiveness isn't brought on through external actions, but this is a psychological lesson that Kratos has yet to learn. In God of War 2, we learn that Kratos has doubled down on his motives of anger and revenge. At the beginning of the game, Kratos attempts to forget his past by keeping himself occupied, another strategy people tend to use when coping with regret. Kratos guides the Spartan army and aids them in battle, and by doing so, he is keeping his mind occupied rather than letting it drift to the memories of what he's done. However, Kratos does go back down the revenge path after he is struck down by Zeus, the king of Olympus. The rest of God of War 2 is the first half of Kratos' second revenge attempt, although this journey is more about vengeance than seeking forgiveness. God of War 2 is more about establishing Zeus' backstory and Kratos' relationship to him, so let's move on to God of War 3, where this trilogy reaches its conclusion.
What will you do, Father? You can no longer hide behind the skirts of Athena.
Athena is dead because of the rage that consumed you, Kratos. What more will you destroy?
The hands of death could not defeat me. The sisters of fate could not hold me. And you will not see the end of this day I will have my revenge!
A majority of God of War 3 sees Kratos at his most vengeful point, but we see him find some peace by the time the credits roll. Okay, so let's not sugarcoat it here. Kratos is a bad person, and by killing the head honchos of Olympus, he makes millions of people suffer, but since he's a protagonist of a video game, well, we kinda go with it, because, I mean, you know, it's fun. For a majority of this game, Kratos is consumed with one thought: kill Zeus no matter what. But eventually, we see the no matter what part of that go to the wayside a bit, which is evidenced by his relationship with Pandora. Early in the game, Kratos learns that Pandora is the key to reopening Pandora's box to draw from its power once more, and before meeting the girl, our fallen god is fully committed to sacrificing her without hesitation. However, once he meets the young child and hears her inspirational thoughts about the nature of hope, we see Kratos walk back on his earlier commitment. When it comes time to sacrifice Pandora, Kratos stops her and vows he will find another way to destroy Zeus. He begins to show some compassion for the first time in a long time. This meeting between Kratos and Pandora is what ultimately starts Kratos' final steps towards finding forgiveness. In an epic clash with Zeus, Kratos seemingly wins before the fear that embodied Zeus takes a physical form and seemingly kills our Spartan warrior. It is now, in this sequence, that Kratos is forced to do what it takes to find true forgiveness. Remember, forgiveness is not an external force that can be gained through apathy or revenge or at the hands of others. Forgiveness comes from looking within and acknowledging that, hey, this is something I did or was done to me and I can't change it. And now I'm going to let go of my connection to it and work towards being better. With the help of the fallen Pandora lighting the way and his wife telling him the truth, Kratos accepts this and embraces his family, which represents him finally letting go of what he did. This is the moment Kratos finds his own forgiveness and has the strength to overcome death itself. He returns to life and silences Zeus once and for all, and in his final moments of the trilogy, Kratos sacrifices himself to release the power of hope to all the citizens of Greece. After years and years of using revenge and anger to try to find forgiveness, Kratos finds it by using hope and then finds redemption by releasing this same power of hope to the mortal humans so that they can rebuild and prosper without the gods. This mirrors the effect that we can feel when we finally find forgiveness in our own lives. Stress and anxiety about the issue melts away and the fog that our brains operated in is lifted. This story helps us realize that we hold all the power within ourselves. Forgiving doesn't mean that what happened is okay, it simply is a vow to say that you will not let yourself be held back by it anymore, and you will strive to be better or to do better for yourself and those around you in the future. Psychological studies of forgiveness show that when a person has these types of moments, it can lead to many positive effects on their lives in many different ways. Socially, a person who forgives is more likely to have stronger relationships that focus on honesty and openness. Mentally, a person who forgives is affected less by feelings of anxiety, guilt, and remorse. And physically, a person who forgives is less likely to suffer from cardiovascular diseases, which would come from the stress associated with holding on to the negative emotions instead of letting them go. Forgiveness seems like such a nebulous concept that would be hard to study in a laboratory setting, but many psychologists have spent their careers studying the concepts and documenting the effects of forgiveness and building tests that can predict how likely a person is to forgive. Today, though, I just wanted to introduce the concept of forgiveness, what the path towards finding it can look like for humans and demigod Spartan warriors alike, and some of the benefits and consequences for forgiving versus not forgiving. If you want to learn more about some of this research, I suggest starting with checking out a study of forgiveness conducted by Charlotte Whitvelit at Hope College in Michigan. I'll leave a link to the study in the description below. In the end, I think Kratos' arc through the original trilogy is a very powerful one, and it's interesting to see how this journey sets him up to be capable of growing alongside his son in the reboot. We see how destructive a path of revenge can be, and how ultimately it doesn't lead to peace, but instead, by looking within and making a conscious effort to be open and honest with yourself, you can find the power to forgive yourself or others and to move on to a much healthier existence. Well everyone, that brings us to the end of today's video. I loved making this video because learning about forgiveness while doing research was so fascinating, and I learned a lot of things I'd like to share about this in future videos. There wasn't an easy way to fit in all the information I learned into Kratos' tale, but I'm sure there is another game out there that I can apply it to. You know, there's ideas like, is forgiveness an emotion or a behavior or both? And how can we measure forgiveness? These are just some of the other concepts that fascinated me, and I hope maybe you'll look into them on your own if you're struggling with guilt or remorse or anger and are seeking resolution. Before I get out of here, let me inform you that I have made a Twitter for the channel, so feel free to follow at NopNapNarp on Twitter. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Consider subscribing for more. Follow me on Twitter at NopNapNarp. And as always, have a nice day and take care.